It's good. Hey guys, today it's Brock Bowen here. You also know me as the Lifetarian, and today I have an amazing friend of mine, William Whitecloud, who just decided I want to have a conversation with him. And we've been talking about a few things just before we started the call, and we kind of went straight into talking about stories in life and all these different things that William shares. And I think I'm going to share how you showed up in my life too. Two ways. I had a friend named Jerry McMahon, who when I first moved to Cairns, I wasn't loving it up here, to be honest. And she did 2 sessions with me talking about some of the work that she's combined, what she does with some of your work. And then she goes, Brock, you have to read a book. And I went and read this book, The Magician's Way. But when I first tried to look at it, it was on Amazon. And I tried to look at it on eBay. And I tried to look at it at Cairns bookstore, and I couldn't quite find it. So I ended up finding it through a friend, Angie Quinn, who you just caught up with the other day. So I caught up with her. She lent me the book. She became a friend for a while, ended up house sitting in her house. And she's someone that she can call me with 5 minutes notice. And if she needs someone to catch up with, I'll be there. She's become a close friend. So that's what I just wanted to say to start with. Like, the work that you do makes a difference for all of us. And yeah, it's really fun. So I thought I'd get you on today and have a conversation about what you're up to and creating and everything like that at the moment. And we're just talking about a story about jet lag. So I want to get back to that. Yeah?
No, and you are. Thanks for the introduction, and thanks for chatting with me. Nice to catch up with you.
Yeah, man.
Hanging out in California, where I'm back now. It's jet lagged, as I was telling you, and you said to me, "Have I got any hacks for jet lag?" And I was saying, I haven't. I've tried everything everyone ever suggested, and I'm not bothered with suggestions anymore. But more importantly, I'm over avoiding jet lag or anything, to be honest, that is natural to go through. I don't want to go through anything unnecessary, like if I can avoid an argument, I'll avoid it. I don't mean in the sense of walking away from it and not, but in the sense of dealing it with in the most conscious way that, any unnecessary conflict doesn't occur. But I'm just talking about anything in life that is natural to go through, and jet lag is natural. It happens to everyone, and we kind of have body clocks and all that are natural, and so when they go haywire, we kind of go haywire. But anything, I'm just not interested in avoiding the pain of life anymore. I really, it's not that I love pain in that, but I'm just over trying to get shortcuts through anything that is a natural process, like, say, grief. If something has hurt me in that, and then grief is part of that process. Well, I don't enjoy grieving in that, but I want to go through that. I don't want to avoid it, and I think people really want to, and want to make themselves feel okay. And the funny thing is that me, and you know what my bag is. I'm all about, I'm a creative development trainer. So I teach people, how to create on a high level creative frequency or function. And a profound truth that we're aware of is that, tension creates. And we don't, we live under kind of like several false assumptions, I'd say, but one of the most important false assumptions, one of the most damaging, really, creatively speaking, is our relationship to tension, and that we want to get rid of tension as quickly as possible. Where the truth is, tension is a creative force. And I'm not talking about stress, because you see what stress is. Stress is a negative relationship to tension. You don't like tension. You want to get away, and it perpetuates, and it comes on stronger. And actually, that's what stress is. And I had this really interesting incident now when I was on safari. The last safari I was on in Africa, and all these people had to, we had to this transfer to this one airport to get us to the main airport in Johannesburg, and everyone was booked on flights all over the world, including me. I had a flight booked to Sydney. And the transfers didn't show up, the vehicles didn't show up to take us, yeah. And then, you know, the guys at the lodge called the transfer company and they go, oh, they haven't been sent and sorry. And it's like, so, you know, I'm responsible for everybody, right? It's my responsibility. And so, you know, I was, I don't know if you'd say upset, but I was very focused.
Yeah.
And, you know, agitated, tense, whatever word you want to use. And anyway, you know, a solution was created, a very creative solution was created to get us there, which involved the airline being called and actually holding back a scheduled flight was part of the solution, but also us being driven half of the way and being picked up, you know, this really creative solution was come up with. And then the guy was driving me out there and he said, oh, you see, William, there's no point stressing because it all works out. And I looked at him, I said, you know what? This only worked out because I was stressed. You know?
Yeah.
And like if I hadn't been stressed and if I hadn't made it clear, super clear to you guys that this was totally not cool, nothing was happening. You guys were just happy for us to miss our flight. Yeah. You know, and it's true. And so, you know, I don't want to like, you know, just get over jet lag in any unnatural way. And I don't want to get through my tension in any unnatural way because, you know, we're meant to go through these processes and there are reasons for it. And, you know, just like with the, you know, I don't want to call it stress, but with the tension situation where if you go, it's cool, you know, it's cool. Then the subconscious goes, yeah, well, it's cool, you know, this situation. And in some cosmic sense it is, but it couldn't have helped anyone get their planes, you know, and so everyone got their planes and then it really was cool. You know? So.
I love that. Just one distinction I noticed then is that people often use this way of being in the world when they're traveling or on safari. You and I do it every day. This is how we live, you know, we love to create. And a lot of people, when they're in their normal world, they don't have these different possibilities. You know, say on that trip, I had it when I was in Rome, where I'd booked one of those shuttles that you just pay 50 euros each and you get driven to the airport. And I went, that doesn't seem like that much fun. So I went to catch a bus. It was 6 euros. I was going to get to catch up and have a real life experience of travel. And when I got there was just people everywhere. Ridiculous. And then as I got there, all of a sudden, the first bus went and it was full. And then the other guy was just relaxed. He had nothing to stress about in the world. We knew we had to be there by a particular amount of time. And we kept asking, what time are you leaving? Oh, you know, whatever he said in Italian. And yeah, that tension started to build up. And then in the end, the solution that I thought of, well, let's get a cab. And I just found 2 people out of the crowd. Next thing, 4 of us are in a cab. We're doing 170 kilometers an hour in a cab. It was the best experience ever. The other guys got there and they were white. The whole knuckles are white. They're holding on like this, which I felt was stress. I don't know if you'd call that tension or stress, but I love going fast. The guy was relaxed. He's driving 170 kilometers an hour to the airport, totally relaxed. Bumping up the glove box kept opening, the whole experience. But it just makes that level of creativity makes us feel alive. There's something about it. But I wanted to speak to that point. Why is it that people tend to create and live their lives when they're on holidays, but then when they're in their normal lives, they don't tend to? How would you relate to that one? And how can people do it? How can people do it?
Well, you know, it's a conscious choice, you know. When you go on holiday, and holidays are great, by the way, and traveling is great. I think the worst thing that happens to us is that humans by our very natures, you know, we just get set in our ways. And you know, we become stuck and stuck in our ways, and that setness, that stuckness is actually very destructive to the human spirit. I mean, you know, it's the cause of depression and, you know, a lot of problems, health problems, whatever, because the most important thing I believe is that, we are more spiritual in nature than anything.
Yeah.
Everything else you see about us is just the vehicle that carries us. And the vehicle doesn't do well when the spirit isn't doing well, and when the imagination, when our creative spirit isn't exercised and challenged, exercised, whatever, is just not expressed, isn't refreshed, then the stuckness sets in. And we creatures of habit. So we fall into routine, I would say, is the correct word. And routine is death to the spirit, and but we just, we're not really conscious of it. We just like humans just take it for granted. It's just like, this is how it is. And when you're on holiday, you're in innocence, you're in wonder, you're there, and the slate is wiped clean, and you have an expectation. I mean, people don't go, oh, I'm going on holiday, oh geez, this is going to be boring, this is going to, people going on holiday are excited. They have an expectation of seeing new things, different ways, meeting new people, seeing new scenery, just the expectation is, and it is anyway, and so that is very vital to our spirit, and people do tend to have a good time, but also are sort of creatively enlivened and refreshed, and then they go back to their old life, and it's just the routine sets in again, and then that's the expectation. It's just people going through the motions, and I think you only experience that if you settle for that. If that's just what you settle for. But look, you've just been on a 4-month journey, and you've had a wonderful, exciting time, and I've just been 2 months and safaring in Africa, and also hanging out in London, and then in Sydney, and up on the north coast of New South Wales.
Yeah.
But just having this wonderful time that's out of this world, But I mean, I think that it's up to each of us to create an out of this world experience every day of our lives. Coming back to my family, and a more structured and work situation, a more forward-thinking, planning kind of life. But it's up to me, and it's up to you to not settle for a routine, but it's up to us to have a vision of what we want to create, and in that expectation, but also in that creative process. Also, the creative process itself is a holiday, because you're going through adventures all the time, aren't you? When you're creating, you're hitting blocks, you're hitting challenges, and that you're breaking through them, you're having new insights. I mean, the very definition of creativity, you see, is making connections that aren't normally made. When you're in routine, you're never making new connections. You're in a routine. It's just the same old. And but when you're creating, and you live your life as a creator, and you create your day, you create your life, you create your business, you create your family, you actually live in wonder all the time, because there's always fresh insights to be had, realizations. When like I'm a writer, and so I write, and just the process of writing, even though I'm here in Santa Monica in my home with the kids that I've lived with for 16 and 18 years, and the woman I've lived with for 22 or 3 years, but I'm on an adventure, because when I'm writing, every sentence is like a new revelation of how I could phrase how I could form a sentence or
Mhm.
express something, or even insight, or just anything. It's like when you find yourself at a speaking engagement and you're talking, and you're on a vibration of something. You're on
Mm.
fire, and even you're not talking to the audience alone. You're talking to yourself. You're informing yourself.
Mhm.
You're amazing yourself, if you know what I mean. Not in a conceited way. I don't mean like,
Mm.
wow, how clever am I? But you're going, wow, is this what I do? Is this what it's about? That's a new level.
You're getting
So
those
it's
new insights and stuff that popping through as you do
yeah,
it.
I mean,
Mm.
it's just a decision. People don't think about it, maybe, but life's a decision, and it's whether you settle for the routine, or whether no matter what you're involved in,
Mm.
you know everything's going to be everything's going to be amazing, and everything's going to be fresh, and everything's going to be new, and the way I know how to do that is to live my life as a creator, and
Mm.
create my life in the way that everything that is evolving in my life, and every area of my life
Mm.
is an artwork.
Yeah.
So, um, and so that's what I'm about, and that's me.
I love it, and I love the books. For those of you guys that don't know William's work, I'll make sure I put a link. But he wrote a book, The Magician's Way and The Last Shaman, and both amazing books. And the thing that I love too is that you don't define yourself as an author. You don't define yourself as those. It's you're a creator, and you have these different forms of expression. But that's one element of what
Exactly.
you do, which I think is interesting
Yeah.
too, just to touch on.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, look. I don't think we should ever define ourselves anyway. That's another thing. That's definition. Just another way of boxing ourselves, and it's like, this is who I am. This is what I do, rather than this is a gift of mine, or an expression of mine. And
Mm.
yeah, I mean, it's funny. I never think, and honestly don't think of myself as a writer. I never.
Mm.
I mean, I shat myself when I wrote my first book. It's just,
Yeah.
I didn't know that it would come out of me like that, and do whatever it did, and have
How
the.
did you know to write a book? What happened? I want to know about that because I kind of set the intention that I'll just know if it's time. I did that with bungee jumping on Sunday, and then half an hour later, I was bungee jumping because I met the manager of
Yeah.
bungee jumping. Next thing I was there. It's kind of like that's how experiences show up. I'm curious with the whole book writing thing because everyone's always telling me, Brock, write a book. But your books are not
You
like
must know what you must never. This is to
blah,
everyone
blah,
who's
blah. Mm-hmm.
you, everyone who's listening. Never write a book because everyone tells you to. It's
Nah.
absolutely, everyone gets told to write books, and those people write books, and they write shit,
Yep.
and they
7
write
steps to success. Blah, 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 blah,
they
blah.
write shit books. They write shit books, and like I tell them, your
Mm.
book's shit, and I'm right, because it never does anything.
Mhm.
And they go, no, it's not shit. This is me and them, and it's important. And I go, why is it important? They go, oh, because people told me, you got to. My parents, who had the most amazing life, were
Mm.
told by everyone to write a book, and they wrote a book, and it was a piece of shit. And and I say with all love and respect, because
Mhm.
they could have written a book that made Out of Africa look like a kindergarten story.
Mm.
That they had a phenomenal life, and that's why people go, oh, you must write a book. But you must never say to a person, you must write a book,
Mm.
because writing and a book is different than you got an interesting story. Do you know, if you come here to Hollywood
Mm.
and you go and see people and say, I've got an interesting story, they'll throw you out of the door so fast your head will spin. You know what I mean? You'll
Yeah.
vomit from vertigo,
Yeah.
because nobody cares about a story. A book is like a book is a is what's the word I'm looking for?
Mm.
It's a book is a an essence, and it's an energy.
Mm.
It's a myth. It's an aspect of a reflection of the human psyche, and it doesn't, that stuff, that you got an interesting story. Doesn't matter if but when the book that needs to be written is when it occurs to someone,
Mm.
that a theme of the human condition and journey occurs to someone,
Mm.
and they set out to set that down, and express that.
Yeah.
And that's the reason why something should be written.
Mm-hmm.
Not because someone's got an interesting thing, they've got interesting ideas. Ideas are cheap. Amazing life experiences are cheap. Not to demean yours or anyone or mine.
Mm.
But I teach writing, and I give talks to hundreds of people at a time in London and LA and wherever, Sydney even. All over
energy.
Australia.
I just want to touch on that.
I just want to say very quickly, 80% of people want to write memoirs, and they think that their lives are important, and they're not. The myth that you represent is important, and unless you understand that, then don't. And because I'm answering your question, because it said, when's the time to write a book? Is when what the myth is that you're representing, and you are somewhat clear, because the clarity will come to you in the writing. Writing is discovery, but when you're to some extent clear and on fire about the myth that's presenting through you, then you're ready to write a book,
That's
and
why
you shouldn't otherwise.
That's why I've always said no. When people say you got to write a book, I'm like, no, I'll know. If it's my time to write a book, I'll know. How did I know to do that 4-month adventure around the world? Because I dreamt it. We literally had someone that we met from California. I think I told you this when we caught up for lunch. Christy was watching a YouTube video of these guys on her phone. Someone had booked for Airbnb at our home. 30 minutes later, these guys from Santa Monica, California, walk in our door in Cairns. We're like, that's interesting. And the more we just get in connection with that, I'd rather live my life that way than write a book with the how-to steps in it. But when I read your books, there's something that changes within us. And that's what I want people to experience when they watch an interview like this, or when they read a book, or whatever the energy is. I think it's more about the energetic frequency, and the words are like a dance throughout it. It seems to be there's an element of that, which almost to me, I'm looking at you, because I know when I speak on stage and do these different things, and I see it with your book, it's almost as if your mind gets out of the way. Another friend talks about the slipperiness of the mind. It's almost as if, when I read those words, it's almost like this message is coming through you or something. And I wanted to ask you, what's the experience for you when you sit down and write a book?
Yeah. I mean, it's not me who writes the book. Stephen Pressfield, who I think is the greatest writing teacher on the planet now, and one of the greatest authors of all time, one of the greatest script writers. I mean, he wrote The Legend of Bagger Vance as an example of which Robert Redford directed.
Yeah, I love it.
Super quality, brilliant on every level. And you know what his latest book is? No One Wants to Read Your Shit. And that's the name of the book.
I like it. Yeah, I like it.
No one wants to read your shit. And you see, your shit is what you think, what you know, you, my life story, me. And these are amazing ideas, and this is amazing, and everyone should know this, and it's like, piss off, nobody cares about that, and so you look, you got to dig deeper, and I didn't get it from him, but I had it confirmed by him, because I taught this long before I read him say it, but. Like Stephen Pressfield, like myself, is very big on theme. That means you got to, Yeats, the poet Yeats said that our thoughts are but the foam upon the deep. We think that our thoughts, are the deep, but our thoughts are just the foam. And on the deep. That's what Yates said. And that's in essence what Pressfield's saying is, man, you've got to sink beneath your thoughts. You've got to sink beneath your mind into that deep where that mythological swordfish is swimming around for you to hook and reel in and be informed by. A writer's job is not to tell people what they think and, who they are in their life and, their transformation in summer camp in 1972. It is not, your job as a writer is to go outside of what's known. And that's a very well understood idea in writing is that if you write what's now currently known in any way, you're gone. No one wants it. It's they call it a conceit in film writing anyway, if not writing. It's a conceit. It's like, what's the conceit? It's what is different, unexpected, unusual. The writer's job, like Shakespeare, is you've got to be an alchemist. You go outside of the known to collect the fruits of the unknown, to bring back to shift people, to entertain them, to awaken them, to support them in a deeper, richer experience of life. I've just read a book, by Cormac McCarthy, and you wouldn't expect this for someone to say it, but he's the guy that wrote No Country for Old Men, and his stories are pretty graphic and violent. And this book that I read, Blood Meridian, is a super violent, it's I mean, you've got to have a strong stomach to read it, but you can't put it down, because his essential premise, is that in the human condition, there is a predatory nature that is destructive to human society and the human individual. And he explores it, man, and I'm telling you, very bravely, because where he is, I mean, you wouldn't expect that society would accept a story and an insight as brutal as that. But this is a bestseller, phenomenal, and you can't put it up. I've recommended it to people, they read and they just go, oh my God, that was amazing. He's addressing and exploring something beyond, deeper, than that's ever been gone before, and bringing it out of us, because that's in us, and he's bringing it out and making us see it, forcing us to look at it in the light of day, that's what writing's about. And if you aren't doing that, and if you can't do that, and then don't write, and I hope I don't sound conceited and arrogant with that, but look, I mean, so many people are writing now, and it's just drivel, and it's just uninteresting, and it's just what Stephen Pressfield said, no one wants to read your shit. I mean, there's a thing going around at the moment. People talk about it like your book is your business card, and they do like a pretend thing where they make it a bestseller, and like they just give it away to all their mates, give it away to all their events, and make it a bestseller. It's a strategy. I guess it's like anything in business. But for me, it doesn't have that energy. It's not creating the wow factor or the magic. And it's the thing. It's kind of like you mentioned Bag of Vance. Another mutual friend of ours is Chris Barkway, who we both got a lot of love for. And it's just fun seeing people who live. Like when I spend time with Chris, he's just so chilled. He's one of the most amazing human beings I've ever met. And he's not out there going, I'm the most amazing human being you've ever met. He's just chill. And you spend time with him, it's just such a pleasure just to be in that space. You just know, it just makes you feel like anything's possible. And that's what, when I think about the creations that we do, from, having this chat together today to books to whatever, that's what, it's funny when we look at life from a completely different perspective. I almost think about like some of the greatest entrepreneurs, they see a future that never existed before. I think we can do that with all our creations. But now I want to quickly go back to your childhood. Can we jump back a few years? Yeah, that'll be quite a few years.
Just to Africa, because that in itself is freaking interesting to me. And you've got a completely different perspective on life to so many people. And I wonder, like, what was it like growing up in Africa? And you talked about spirit as well. When did you realize that you were, having a spiritual experience? Was that part of Africa, or is it something that you've blossomed into along the way? Or I'm just curious.
Yeah, look, I mean, growing up in Africa was wonderful in many ways because I grew up in really wild times.
Mm,
And it's hard to believe that someone who's alive now could have, because of how small the world is now, and how developed it is, and how tamed it is, basically, in many ways. I mean, still the Wild West in many ways, but I grew up in a very wild place, and so I mean, it was amazing. But also the shadow side of that was I grew up in a colonial environment,
mm,
and that came with all kinds of repressions and bigotry and racism, and so the thing the thing about
mm,
colonialism
mm,
is you know
mm,
whatever it was doing, for colonials themselves, this actually was an unconscious drive,
mm,
which was not to go native. That's a big thing, so um it's really weird then to grow up in a very native place, and I don't just mean human natives,
mm,
a native place, a native world, where the natives are the trees and the animals and the nature, right?
mm,
And so you grow up in a very native place, but everything that's native then is repressed and denied,
mm,
because if you take that on, then so on the one hand, as a child in innocence,
mm,
before you start going to school, you're in the wonder of that. But then when you start going to school and you're old enough to be, brought into the system and conditioned that, you're given to understand that that is all wrong.
mm,
So you go, right, okay, so everything that part of me that relates to anything that's native out there, and you know what I mean by native now, that
mm, mm.
human and inhuman, unhuman.
Yeah.
Uh, so you're going, well, Jesus, I'm wrong, like it's native to sing and dance and fornicate and,
Yeah.
whatever. Just feel free and wild and feel this heart connection to the earth and the world and life and other people, and
Mm,
and so it's like, wow, so then the effect that had on me was really like the effect of hiding that and repressing it, and when you're going to hide yourself, it's important that you hide yourself so well that not even you can see yourself. Otherwise, you're going to expose yourself,
mm, mhm,
And so I became very lost to who I was. I went through a whole journey of being lost to myself, and the sickness of that creates. The pathology of that. I mean, because if you lose your soul, if you lose your spirit, and
mm,
I mean, you're going to die, and that's what happened. I was dying, but then that then led me to finding myself and going back, and so now I'm 60, and I'm the same person now that it comes back to me,
mhm.
like I'm a 5-year-old. I live life as that 5-year-old again, and I do, I'm
Yeah.
not childish, but
Mm,
I'm very childlike
mm,
in my nature and
mhm.
whatever.
That's one thing I've noticed about creative people is people don't seem like, to me, it's irrelevant. Doesn't matter what age you are. Like, I'm 37, you're 60. It's just the same thing. And, we've got slightly different bodies that we're experiencing right now, but it's a funny energy because some people that experience 60, they're on their way out and you're just getting warmed up, to be honest. It's,
Yeah,
yeah.
look, I had a funny life where in my 20s and 30s I was very ill,
Mm,
very debilitated, and even into my 40s.
mm,
So my last 20 years, and like in my sort of later 40s and my 50s,
mm,
I felt way better than I felt in my 20s and 30s. So, when people say to me, geez, I'm slowing down, I'm not like when I was 20 or 30, or, really? um, I'm feeling great, but I've only got my 20s and 30s to compare it to, which
Sure.
sucks. But yeah, yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
I'm always just fascinated. When I went to that question before with hacks, I wasn't meaning like that. I was just like different perspectives. I thought you might have like something around that, because I saw this experiment a little while ago that they made men that were in the 80s or 70s, and they set them up like they're in an experience where it was 22 years ago. And they put them in an environment for 5 days when it was 22 years ago. Guys that were on crutches by the 5th day, apparently they walking sticks and crutches and just hobbling around like old men are supposed to.
Yeah.
And on day 5, they're playing touch footy. They'd grown, their blood pressure had changed, all those different things. I'm just looking at like all the elements of creation and imagination. What are the other ways we can apply it to that we haven't even considered? Like, say on a day-to-day basis, you're doing it with so many elements, which keeps you young. What are some of these other things, like for people watching today? Like if they're just watching, they're going, cool, well, I'm working a normal job or I've got a normal business, even though nothing's really normal. I think everything's amazing. Like I think sometimes we got to change that perspective. Otherwise, we always need to go away from our life to experience something different.
Yeah.
What are some of the other ways people can use creativity and imagination right now?
Well, look, the most fundamental, condition that we're subject to is, and that we can be freed from, is definition. People don't realize it. Even I don't. Even now, as I'm talking to you, because I'm not going to live my life like being that self-analytical, to be honest. But you see, it's a very big subject. But let me just say that simplistically, and certainly strictly speaking, also, but this is being very simplistic. But it is true. Is that your ego? People talk ego. They don't know what an ego is. They just think it's this mental part of themselves that is rational and controlling, and kind of anathema to the spirit and whatever. But that is so wrong. But your ego exists for a purpose, and because if there was anything that didn't serve us, if in terms of evolution, we wouldn't have them. You know what I mean? Like, we don't have tails anymore. So they don't need tails. And if we didn't need an ego, they'd be gone. And your ego is about its most primary function is orientation. You see, is wants to know how things are. You stand in any situation, and because if you don't know where you stand, you don't know how to respond to something. So if a person pulls you over, where do I stand in relation to this situation, this individual, whatever, you know how to respond. But the trouble is with that, it's subjective. But anyway, our ego is responsible for our orientation in life, and it gives us orientation by forming set definitions about everything. This is what we were talking about before, defining yourself as a writer.
Yeah.
And so unconsciously, every situation you're in, every moment you're awake, and I think even asleep, your ego is going, how is it? And it answers itself by dredging up its definitions that are relevant to that situation. And so defining yourself, others, in the world constantly. And you see, actually, if you become aware of this and become trained at it, and it doesn't take much at all, you can very quickly begin to appreciate how you're defining yourself, others, and the world. And you can change that definition. That's the thing. That's the one thing you got control over in your life, is the definitions that you're living by, And so if I'm in a situation, you see, and particularly where the situation is an unwanted situation,
Mhm.
and you have reactions and you have tensions and stuff comes up for you, you can instantly identify how you're defining things, and if you change the definition, not out of delusion, but like, for instance, if you're surrounded by guys with guns and machine guns, it's deluded to say I'm okay here. It's not not talking about a definition.
Yeah.
That reframes reality in a deluded way.
Yeah, for sure.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But you can change the definition to these people inevitably have the power over me. I'm powerless.
Mm-hmm.
You see,
Mm-hmm.
whatever. So you can change your definitions from, say, of I'm powerless to I'm powerful, from they are the enemy to they are people with guns. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can change the definitions in such a way that any possibility exists. And in fact, getting really good at altering definitions, you can change definitions to actually compel reality to flow the way, in your highest good, you see.
So how bendable is reality? What is reality?
Well, it's very bendable. It's very bendable.
Mm-hmm.
It's very bendable. I mean, reality is reality. If there's guys, I'm surrounded by, if I'm surrounded by guys with guns, just to use that's reality.
Yeah.
It's real. It's true. It's the truth. It's the current reality.
Mm-hmm.
But it is not the reality of the possibility in that situation.
Mm-hmm.
And so, when you start playing with definitions and not, as I said, not trying to reframe reality, reframe definitions, then reality that reality follows definition.
Can you just go into that a bit more? Reframe reality versus reframe definitions, just so we go into it.
Well, you see, reframing reality is like, let's just keep rolling with the I'm surrounded by guys with guns. Reframing reality is guys that have got me surrounded by guns. They're telling me, bad things. I'm in a bad situation. They claim I've done whatever. I've got an American passport. They don't like Americans. You know what I mean? That's a reality in some place.
Yeah, definitely.
Me just going, oh, it's all okay. All people are good. I'm good. I'm always safe. You see, it's just, and I know people who reframe reality, and bad things happen to them because they don't deal with reality. You see?
Yeah.
So there's the reality is that here's a situation where a certain reality is presenting it to me. But that's just reality, you see. That's just the current reality. Possibility is bendable. And you see, if I am holding and then expressing certain definitions, and particularly limited definitions, they're gonna like limited possibilities are going to follow. A limited reality is going to follow that,
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, I might just reframe reality and deny it and just go, because I don't believe that I have the power to actually engage that reality and influence it through my power and will. So then by spacing out, I've actually just, through my actions, define myself as powerless, and the power's in that situation. Whereas I can just go, hey, I can apply a definition of, and my favorite one is hey, like I find myself in situations like even I told you about that transport situation. I just go, hey, I'm a magician.
Yep. Claim it.
Yeah, I'm a magician. You know, it's like in one moment I'm seeing the possibility. The only possibility is us missing our planes, and then it's just like, no, you know what? I'm a magician, and you know, if you think about it, you know, you think about the idea of magic, you know, and imagine a magical being. If a
Yep.
magical being came to Earth
Mm-hmm.
and they arrived here and they're a magical being,
Mm-hmm.
how would things work out for them if they got a flat tire or they got cancer or, you know, shit happens, but then they're a magical being, so inevitably it's going to work out.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it can work out in many ways, including them having to express themselves, use their muscles, whatever. But, you know, whatever it takes is going to be applied, and it's going to be okay.
Mm.
And you see, when you change your definition, you become creative. And like I was saying, the definition of creativity before is that definition of, is making connections you don't normally see. So you start seeing pathways through things that you didn't see before, but it just energetically you start having effects as well, you know. And your behavior changes, and the guys with guns, because you know you relax in a way that relaxes them, you know, the situation changes. They get ideas, you get ideas, you know. So that's it.
I love it. Well, you see those examples, you know, where you see, they're not Jackie Chan, but they see the Qigong, internal martial arts guys, and people try and hit them and they just go, shoom. They're just like energetically, they just go, shoom, shoom, and then move them, and they can literally do it with their power. I've seen one where a friend of mine went to China. He had, his name's Ryan, he had a big block, and he stood up an 8-foot ladder and he dropped a Besser block onto his master's chest. The guy was listening there, just listening relaxed to listen to opera music, had this dropped, it didn't even hit his chest. It kind of just went bounce. And it's crazy how different our life experience can be if we claim it.
Sorry, I've got to go and pick my daughter up. I'm very sorry.
That's cool. I got about 2 minutes as well. So just give us your last things. Like, we got 2 minutes to finish up. We had some powerful content on here. My line that I loved from you a while ago, I think it was in Magician's Way, which essentially said a magician can be comfortable in any environment or create in any environment. Something along those lines.
Yeah, no. That's wrong.
Answer it if you want.
Hey, Sue, I'm coming. I'm just in a meeting. I'm leaving in 1 minute.
Okay, will you meet me at the Starbucks, please? At that
yeah. Okay.
Cool. All right. Final 60 seconds.
No. I mean, you see, I think what you're referring to, and this is a very important creative premise, is that there's no condition that precludes you from creating what you love. And so a creative person, a magician, will go for the end result of what they want directly. An uninitiated, uncreative, untrained person, the meaning of their life is establishing the conditions that they believe must exist before they can have what they want. Like a person, you know, I'll just give you an example, like just one example. A person with low self-esteem or low sense of worth will believe that they can't have what they want ultimately, directly, that they would have to be worthy before they could, you know, so they feel incomplete in themselves. So completing themselves is the mission of their life. So they then have to do a whole bunch of things to be good, to get approval, and they make their life about, they take jobs, they join causes, they invest all the energy in becoming good people. And it's like, well, what would you do? What would you have if you were a good person? You know, because you're spending all your energy on being a good person to get what you want.
Yeah.
But, you know, you actually whole right now, you know. So, you know, that's that principle.
I like it. We've got so much great value on this call today. You got to go pick up your daughter. Otherwise, there'll be tension building up.
Yeah,
But I love,
she's putting she's holding the tension. She's not going. It's cool.
no, what's it like with kids as well? I gotta talk to you more about that. I know you got to run now. I'm gonna have another
Let's
conversation.
have another conversation, brother. Always good talking to you. Sorry to cut this short. I was
Oh,
enjoying.
yeah, I love it too. I got to jump on another call at 9 o'clock, so it works out perfect, man. Lots of love. You have the best day ever. Or sleep. It's about what, 6 o'clock there now? 5
No,
o'clock?
it's 4.
4 o'clock. Cool.
Yeah.
I'll speak to you soon. Thanks for your time.
All right, brother. Take care, man.
See ya.